Good day, mate. So today we are going to take a close look at section 13. So let's take a look at the very first one for number 2. So for number 2, here it says, Eve had put on much weight that her dress wouldn't fasten at the back. So here we choose so much weight because we use so to describe much, so much, so much, or so many something, or so much something. So you can think about these two words are together, okay, so much weight. If we want to use the word such, and then you'll say put on such weight, okay, put on such weight. So that's why in this case, we will use the word so much, okay, so much weight. All right, so basically here you can pay attention to the key points we have here. So for the word so, we can put adjective or adverb behind. Okay, so 我们后面基本上简单的概念来讲，就是放形容词跟副词。And for such, we put a noun behind. 所以你看到后面有名词的话，纵使它前面可能有用形容词去修饰它什么的话，那我们这边就会用的是 such something， OK， 后面放个名词。那这个题目比较特别的点是，它主要是要讲很多体重很多，所以这边的这个 so much 这两个字是在一起的 so much weight。那如果你要用 such 来讲说就是如此多的体重的话，那我这边就会直接讲说 put on such weight， put on such weight。所以这个题目是比较特别一点点的。Alright, so let's move on to number 5. So you cautious when walking along in this neighborhood at night. 那这边基本上它简单的概念来讲的话，我们就是 to 后面可以加形容词或副词。那 enough 的话呢，我们会放在后面，比方说 good enough， good enough or too good， so too good versus good enough， 所以基本的概念就是这个样子。所以我们就看 you can never be too cautious when walking alone， when walking alone. And here we will not choose D. If you want to choose D, you have to say you cannot be cautious enough when walking alone. Alright, so that's why in this case we choose C. You can never be too cautious. And then we can move on to number 7. And the concept is also quite easy. We put adjective and adverb behind how, and then we put a noun behind what. So adjective and adverb and noun, okay. 好，所以简单来说，就是 how 的后面我们会放形容词跟副词，那 what 的后面我们会放的是一个名词，然后中间可能会有一些形容词去修饰它，可是重点是后面那个名词，那我们还是要用 what。所以像这个题目的话呢，在你们考卷上面所看到的是 how pleasant a time it will be， 所以你就注意到这边它所提到的是一个形容词 how pleasant a time it will be。那这边 what a pleasant time， 这边用的是一个名词 a pleasant time， 所以呢这边用的就会是用 what， 所以它的概念其实都会是很简单的，就是 how 后面我们放的是形容词或者副词，那 what 后面我们放的就是一个名词，那主要是这个名词在这边 time。 Alright, and then we can move on to number 9. So for number 9, here it says, we enjoy our trip to Poland.And then we say something like, we are thinking about buying a house there. 那你可以注意一下后面这边是一个 complete sentence. We have a subject, which is we, and are thinking. Here is the verb, alright? So if we are using a complete sentence, which means we need to use the clause, right? That clause we have here. So there will be something like that, right? So in this case, 我们就可以知道 C 这个答案是绝对不可能的，因为后面有个 that 子句去连接它。好，那 we can move on to think about that. So much so that, okay, so much so that, so much so that, or so much, or as much as that. 所以如果你要选 D 的话，一个 as much as something， 所以要 as much as that, we are thinking about buying a house there， 所以呢，基本上我们不会选 D。So that's why we choose so much so that we are thinking about buying a house there. And then we can move on to number 10. I cannot thank Mary for help on the report. 那这边就是说我要怎么感谢她都不为过。So if you choose C, I cannot thank Mary more. 我不能多感谢她，那这个意思就是有点相反的了哈，我不能多感谢她。So that's why we have to say I cannot thank Mary enough. 就是感谢她都不够，所以表示怎么感谢她都不足以为过，就是都不足的意思。And you want to choose A, you have to say I cannot thank Mary too much for her help on the report. All right, so that's all for number 10. All right, so we'll move on to the next section for section